How are we, Jen? Great. All right, we'll go ahead and call our work session agenda for June 29th to order. We have a roll call, please.
Morris.
Here, on time.
Here.
Present.
Cottle.
Here.
Costello.
Present.
Here.
Great. One thing that we're going to add to our agenda for today is executive session. So we could put that, or list that if no objection. We've got a couple items that we need to go in exec for.
I thought we had number 9. It was all union today.
For today's. All right, so looks like Mr. Hinshaw, you put, of course, our foremost Dominion Virginia Power transmission lines item there. So why don't you update us? You had obviously a phone call from Mr. Travis. I think did he stop by?
Mr. Cutler with Dominion Power did stop by. There's really not much more. We didn't really discuss a whole lot more than what's in the letter. He more wanted to stop by to let us know that they're making progress on their application, and that basically they were getting ready, that letter was going out the day that he had stopped by, just so that we would be aware of it prior to it arriving in mailboxes. They've eliminated 3 of the lines. Many of you already received the letter. They are still studying 4 lines, and the next public hearing is our public open house is going to be on Wednesday, July the 15th, from I believe 5 to 8 at Battlefield High School.
Okay. I'd like to have this maybe on our agenda, just roll it every month, so we could have that as an update or at least a status until something new develops there. We do have a few updates regarding that. Just speaking to our supervisor, Pete Camlin, I guess he has informed us that the Midwood project has, I guess, are not negotiating now with having the substation and the additional data centers over there. I guess he met with them last week, he mentioned. So that's some news that has come out.
Well, that's interesting. We met with them last week, but they're still going forward with the project.
Yeah, and of course you got the developer that their Dominion and Brand X is negotiating for this land to them, and so now those negotiations are no longer going forward. So yeah, you would think that something would come out of that. His question was also whether or not they could actually Dominion could acquire the land, like eminent domain. He wasn't sure of that answer. He hadn't spoke, but it looks like maybe from our attorney, is that something that, I know we're kind of not off topic, but is that something that...
Right. Dominion Power, like a lot of utilities, does have the power to acquire property for eminent domain for its utility purposes. So they can acquire lines, they can acquire areas for a number of purposes. You have to look very carefully at the statute and interpret it narrowly. There's been some questions recently about the exact extent of their power of eminent domain, and they would have to articulate the public purpose, but that is one of their powers.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments regarding this? I know they had one time mentioned about coming back to the town council, but it sounds like this is their next public statement would be this July 15th. My concern is that this meeting is just like an open house. It's not a question and answer. It seemed like one of our first meetings with them, I thought went really well here with the question and answer.
That's why they're not doing it again.
I would...
Well, if I may, Brian, maybe you can help with this a little bit. I thought they were going to come back and talk to us again before doing that public meeting. And we had talked about a couple suggestions. One was undergrounding through town. As elaborate as that might seem, you would still think they would report back to us whether it was electrically viable or not. So unfortunately, we haven't heard anything back on that issue, and perhaps others that I may not be aware of. So That's it.
I did get a clarification from Mr. Cutler this morning, was this red proposed line that they have drawn there, that appears to be the railroad line. That line, it was the second proposed line. The first one was the one that actually was right near the tracks, but I think his response was, with the possibility of a VRE extension or study, that they are looking at the second of the proposals. So the first one's not shown where it was eliminated, but this is actually showing the second one.
So does that mean they're pushing it closer to Somerset?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We never thought it was going away, did we? We never thought that line was going away. I don't know where some people would have that idea that it was going to disappear.
That never came from, yeah.
Well, I do have a question. So this is not the public hearing, though, that they do before they go to the SEC, correct? So they still have to do the public hearing here upon our request, and still the one, then the final in Richmond. And we don't have any dates on that yet.
No, because submission for Mr. Cutler, I think they were looking at, he knew that the meeting for July 15th, and he thinks somewhere in August would be the submission to the SEC.
So when do we send a request to them to let them know we want a public hearing here first?
Well, I think
Or
I'd
does
like
that
to,
automatically happen?
if it pleases the council, I think that having another meeting with them with the question and answers of between maybe after the 15th and before it goes to submission. Yeah.
We can, but I'm just curious do we have a date on that? Do we have to request the public hearing here?
Well, I think if we go back in time just a little bit, we were promised by our elected officials in the county that they were going to lean on the SEC and Dominion to have the hearing here in Gainesville. So we could ask Pete Canlon and/or Corey Stewart what the timing is on all of that.
But
we
weren't
need to-
those meetings after submission?
I think that's what you're, is
Yeah,
that what you're
those
talking
meetings are
about?
after submission.
To know when they plan on
Yeah, that's
doing
what
it, as
she's
opposed to
talking
being
about.
surprised.
I thought she was talking about a meeting before.
No.
Of course, I was talking about the meeting before, just to have more of a question and answer with them, that we can better understand what they're looking at here. Any other thoughts, comments?
I'm just wondering, why would we need them back here? To tell us what?
They're going to tell us the same thing.
I think maybe to answer questions, answer the hard questions that an open house doesn't have. Having little displays and showing us, I didn't attend the Battlefield one, but I understand they had just little setups, kind of,
They did.
yeah.
Well, Chris asks a fair question, what will they share with us outside of, the July 15th meeting and perhaps their submission? It may not be much of anything, to be honest, because, we've pressed to see what their preferred alternative is going to be that's going into submission, and they basically have said, you'll see it when the submission is made.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure they're going to be able to give us anything else. I mean, that's a fair question.
Well, maybe it's a time just for them to go on more record, public record,
Because we have stated our opposition to certain proposed routes, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And everything, there's of the 4 or 5 that's here now, there's 2 that we're going to oppose. I mean, I'll definitely oppose the one for Green Hill. But do we need to make it formalized to say that we're opposed to this new route by Green Hill? Not Green Hill, Somerset? Do we need to go on record to say that we're opposed to it so that when Somerset takes up the fight, they would then know that the town of Haymarket has voted against that route? Because we were against the previous one, which was closer to the railroad. I'm just trying to justify why would we need to bring them in, because they're just going to be continuously vague and deceptive.
Mr. Mayor, make a suggestion. The Planning Commission did a lot of work on their report on the previous plans, and maybe you could ask them to take a look at this and report back to council, and that'd be one way to handle it, and they could get what information they feel they need to from Dominion, and if they can't get the information they need, then they'll report that they asked for and didn't get it.
Good idea.
Any objection with that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any further comments? Sure.
Well, just one. Are we going to be tasking the planning commission to be trying to go out to get information to subsidize the full report that they did, which was extensive and really good and detailed, when they could be doing other things? Because this is a pressing issue that we would probably want them to deal with urgently. True? Are we in asking them to do this report, is that going to push off other things that they should be focusing on for the town? I don't know what their workload is, but I'm just saying we're adding something to the PC and asking them to review something that they've already extensively gone through. Is it possible that we could be adding workload and pushing off other things that they should be doing?
I think part of the problem is that we have 2 new alignments now. And while they may not look like they're going through town, I'm not necessarily sure. You can't tell by the map. So it might behoove us to try to get some more information about that. I did write a letter to Travis, or an email to him after we got that information. I asked him for a better map. Now, that probably won't see that until July 15th anyway. But you can't really make out exactly where this is going and whose property and what town or district. I mean, most of it's in Brentsville, but it almost looks like there's a sliver going through Haymarket down by the Route 15 crossing, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think having them revisit, or just looking at the 2 different submissions, I mean, let them, well, my opinion would be, let them kick back to say that they can't, or, but looking at the new development, I think that they're not having to really focus on all the work that it took to come up with the original.
So would we want to have them come in then at the next, at our council meeting, if they can do that? Because the next meeting for them is the 15th. So if they don't come on the 6th, we're not going to get them before.
We could have a special meeting.
I mean, there's really like no time.
My concern about asking the planning commission to revisit this is that there's not enough time.
And they did an extensive,
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty clear how we
I mean,
felt.
for them to look into this, I mean, they'd have to go full throttle on it next 2 weeks. And that's not a lot of time or to do a proper job.
Well, and I personally think the outcome's the same.
Yeah. So asking them to come back and talk to us might be even if we don't get anything out of them, might be the best solution there in the next couple weeks.
Well, Mr. Collins.
I think it's interesting, they won't give you the preferred route, but they'll number it. So they kind of give just the casual reader, routes currently under consideration are. It's kind of interesting that they wouldn't put bullet points in lieu of numbers. Second thing, based on these 5 routes, maybe our best alternative is to adopt another resolution from the town council that we, I don't know how you would word it necessarily, but that we support the overhead underground, and we strongly oppose numbers 2 through 5 as mailed out on such and such a date, to go on record.
I kind of like that idea. The only problem is they could come up with more alternatives, so maybe we should just be pro I-66 underground.
I think
Simply
we
stated.
should speak with, I think we may get further by just adopting another resolution, putting it out there. Because unlike Councilman over there, I mean,
Over there, me, Morris?
Morris, yeah, you know who I mean. This is a work session, all right?
If it's not over there, it's over here, right?
Oh, brother. Yes, Councilman Morris, Chris to be exact. But my point is, they're going to come back. They're going to give the same lack of information. This is really as much information as we've gotten from them, to be honest with you. And I got this like the rest of you did. I think we just keep hammering that we want it along, if it's underground north of 66, then everybody wins. I mean, all these other routes that they're proposing, and like being on the planning commission, I mean, I think we beat that thing pretty good. And with the Harover property, we're getting pretty invested in that. And I think we'd be better spent working on the Hanover property than this. I mean, I don't know how much more we can do as a planning commission. Where I think if we speak again, resolution, I think that would carry more weight. That's just my thought.
Could we simply restate our position that the only route we can stand behind is an underground route, and any overhead routes we would oppose? I mean, is it that simple? Can we just say that?
Shaking of a lot of heads, yes. So we could task our attorney to
Yeah, absolutely,
come up with
because, let's face it, the SCC, as we've seen before in other studies, have brought alternatives that weren't submitted back into the discussion. So any of these could be brought back in, and other new ones could be looked at that we can't even contemplate at this time. So I agree. I think we should just be bold and say this is what we want, period.
One other comment. I just find it hard to believe that they're this close to cementing and they're still kicking around 1, 2, 3, 5 different proposals.
Well, they have to propose
I
several now.
I know, but proposals, plural, not 5. I mean, they have one definitely they're going to go for and they're going to lobby for.
Isn't that typically how it goes? They present their preferred route. They'll put their preferred route out there and then the other alternatives, right?
Dominion will, correct.
Yeah. In the meantime, sir, could we request of them, I don't know which office, if it's through the council, the town manager, or PC, for a more detailed map?
Yeah, so when we officially, we'll have Brian tasked to reach out to Mr. Cutler, which is our liaison for the town, for that detailed map.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, in just hearing some of this, I think there's a couple of certainties that we have. I don't think you're going to get anything additional information between now and the 15th. It might not be a public hearing per se. It is a public open house, but we've also seen them go in some new directions after the open house. It would be my recommendation to you all. I think it's perfectly fine for you to state your all's, basically you all as representing the town, what our preferences, but with that regard, I would hold that off to your August meeting until after the open house anyway. It gives you a little bit more time to see what comes out of that. It gives us enough time to determine, do we want to bring them back in because maybe something came out of the open house. I think it gives you a little bit more leeway. Having the planning commission with really take a look at these 2 new routes. They wouldn't necessarily need to go into the level of detail of the report, but maybe just make some kind of recommendations. However, if you all as a council are pretty much of the mindset that anything that's not underground, I don't know if it's worth it, because I think the planning commission is going to come back with, maybe the same recommendation. So if we're all kind of the same mindset, it makes sense to go ahead and go that direction. But I still would recommend you to hold off to your August meeting. We know that our August meeting probably would not coincide. They still are probably not going to get that submission in. And at some point, I think all of you all realize we can keep going back and forth with Dominion Power, but at some point we got to turn our attention to just going to the SEC.
I think, once it goes submission, then obviously our focus is there. But, okay.
Are you saying?
And I guess that was my concern about when are those dates going to happen?
Yeah,
So
I
that
know.
how do we find out those dates?
At this point, you really only can go off of, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Aiken. At this point, we're really going off what Dominion Power, they have not said that, they haven't done anything quite yet where they've said they're going to do one thing and going completely opposite. They've said every delay that they're going to be, and so they're planning on submitting sometime mid-August, and probably September is even a legitimate possibility.
I'm going to hazard a guess that they'll probably let us know either the day before or the day of the submission.
Most likely.
I mean,
But that
that's what
just
they've
starts-
done on everything else.
Yeah, but understand, that just starts the review process for the SEC.
Okay.
And as Councilman Passanello actually pointed out, we've actually, in looking at some of the SEC decisions, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason on theirs. Dominion or Power or other utility companies that are applying to them have gone in with their preferred route, and it's going completely the opposite direction. So that's one of those things, that's being far-fetched, but I'm just saying,
but no.
but they have gone. So there's sometimes even they're at the mercy of the SEC. Yes, they're going to take their preferred route into account, but they actually take all the routes that are being studied into account.
Okay.
So let's go back to the original question. Are we going to request a more detailed copy?
I think we should ask for, yeah,
Okay.
see what their response would be.
So far, it's been crickets.
It's been.
Crickets, yeah. Okay. Any other comments?
I agree that we probably should wait till the August meeting for any resolution, rather than doing one next week.
Yeah,
I
go
guess
ahead.
my question, what difference does it make if we shoot 5 resolutions? If we just continually stay on it, I don't see, it's not that big a deal to draft a resolution. We submit it based upon the information we
Have
have.
at the time. Any other
Maybe
thoughts
that
with
resolution will, I mean, it's wishful thinking. I just don't see why, I mean, I'm not saying if we wait, I'll be totally opposed to it, but I just don't see, based upon the information we have today, why don't we take a swing at it?
Well, go back to the ethics of it. We've asked them before to come back to us. They haven't. They've sent out a letter. I think you're correct. We should send out a resolution based on the letter they sent us. So unless it's unethical to send out 5 resolutions, I think we should.
Well, I think it,
Because this is the information they've given us. This is basically in lieu of them coming and reporting to us.
Sure.
Which we've asked them for. We've asked them to be upfront. We've asked them not to be deceptive. We've asked them to just to come and to share these things with us. And instead, again, we get a letter.
I think we just need to look back when it's all said and done, that we did the best we could, and we did everything in our power for the citizens. So to me, the more the merrier.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a consensus of the council for, we'll get a draft resolution and see you for next Monday? Okay. All right. Okay. Next item, invocation. Anybody have a pastor or minister? Our local ones, I think we still have about 2 in town, I believe. I'll take that on to reach out and see if we can get pastor, and I'll let you know, Jen, for our Monday's meeting.
I've reached out to Rizwan. I saw him on the plane, as a matter of fact.
Coming back from New
Coming
York.
back from New York. And he was going to reach out to one of the rabbis in the area.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to make some contact there, and I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Good deal. Okay. Our minutes that are standard, if anybody sees any problems with those, to let Jennifer know. Otherwise, we'll go right to our department reports. Holly, welcome back. I say welcome back, but I think we missed you last time.
I was at the agenda meeting, but not the actual council meeting. There's nothing really exciting to report, so it's more if you have questions on anything that I have put in here. Finley has gone and done some of the repairs on the enhancement project. They said they're going to respond in writing to the apron issue, of which I have not heard back. But they had worked on all the on some of the other issues in terms of raking, the buffer strip, repairing the street lights, cleaning out and pouring concrete into some of the inlets. The as-built survey was returned, and it turns out that there is not the drainage problem that I thought that was showing up in the first place. It actually turns out the reason it appeared to be a problem is because they had not poured the concrete invert in the bottom of the inlet, and that's one of the things I called to their attention to, and they corrected. So
we also have the punch-out list that we kind of touched on over the last month or so, and that was some of the driveway aprons.
yes, and that's what I was saying, is that they said they were going, they did not correct that as part of their corrections. They responded, that they said they were going to respond in writing, and they have not, as of the time as of today, they have not responded to that. So you can infer what you might think of that. But
you very
I have
much.
not heard back as of today. They have not provided their response.
I have a few questions. Sure. Holly,
Go back.
the surveyor, we were talking, I guess, the storm sewer thing. Now, that's warranted work?
We have not completed we have not done final acceptance, so I don't consider any of this warranty work. The as-built survey was a contract requirement, and what happened is as they were going through the first submission of the as-built survey showed that there might be a drainage problem. And I asked them to verify some numbers. They resubmitted, and they gave me less information saying they couldn't access it. Coordinated some more. They submitted again with even less information, and I was like, no, you have to provide this information. I'm not going to let it go. And if the pipes are flowing in the wrong direction, you're going to have to dig them up and replace them. Okay. And I was actually out there the other Friday morning, not this past one, but the one before, where the surveyors finally came out and pulled the tops off of some of the inlets that they said they couldn't get the elevations on. And like I said, the reason that the elevations were turning weird and it wasn't correct is because the concrete shaping in the bottom were missing. So the surveyor work, it was part of the as-built survey, which was a contract requirement. Any repairs that they were doing is just try to get to final acceptance. I won't do the final acceptance until everything is working at once.
Good.
You know?
Excellent.
So.
I know I've asked this before, but so repairs of the project will come in at approximately $140,000 under.
Under.
Excellent.
They cannot bill for these additional repairs because these are items that they were already paid for. Right. So you can think of it as warranty work, but it's not because we haven't done final acceptance. But they're not charging it; they can't charge us for it.
So then, once you finalize everything, that's when the warranty begins?
After we go through final acceptance, once everything works and we respond and run and we agree to final acceptance of the project,
okay,
that's when the 1-year warranty period would kick in.
Okay. So while they're doing that work, have them take a look at the lights too, because they were on all day yesterday. I don't know if anybody noticed.
Well, and they're on today too.
Yeah.
And that's what I was asking when I came in. I was like, well, it gave me a great opportunity to see if any were out.
Well, we can tell you which ones are out.
Well, in the enhancement project, there aren't any out right now.
Correct, yeah. Enhancement, correct.
But I don't know, they were on all day today too, so I don't know.
Sensor.
Yeah, and if they were on yesterday though too, something else is happening.
Yeah, they were all day yesterday. I don't know. And what about Giuseppe's? I noticed after we had the heavy rain, it's still flooding there. Is there anything we can do about that? Or can VDOT do anything about that?
That is a very, very flat area, and that's one of the reasons why now they require additional information when building the handicap ramps, is because that was happening all over the state. I don't know offhand of a quick fix for that.
Is that a VDOT issue, or is that a town issue? Or is that something you want to think about?
I want to think about that.
Later?
Yeah, let me think about that.
Because it didn't occur until the last repaving. This was not an issue.
It was.
I mean, before?
It's been an issue. It's been an ongoing issue since it was constructed.
And Chris brought it up, I think, a few meetings ago, and we were out walking after the rain on Saturday, and it was like, wow, that's like a swimming pool out there.
Well, the heart of the rain, at one time, it almost crossed the road, and then when they go through the different paving options, different things happen. But it's been an issue since it was constructed. And I will see if I can't contact the VDOT maintenance, and I don't know of a quick fix for that because it's so flat there. It is actually it's so flat. So I will contact VDOT maintenance on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Holly?
I have three. I'll probably send it in an email, but just some small issues.
Okay.
One has to do with the trees on Hunting Path that you're working on.
I did contact Dominion, and I talked to their arborist, and he said he was coming out to look at it. I don't know if he's come out and looked at it yet. I asked him, I specifically mentioned the one tree that the wires are going through, and on another inspection occurred to me, the Dominion wires are up at the top, and the other wires might not be Dominion, so I don't know if they'd be willing to trim the tree. So that might be, if it's the tree trimming, that might be something the town needs to be looking into.
And the other one has to do with trash drums. There's really on the south side of Washington from Jefferson all the way down. I can't remember seeing any trash drums going down in front of Food Line.
That's something that, as part of like the planning commission work to do additional streetscape features, that's normally where that type of issue gets picked up.
So is it something that I would send or make a note and send it to Matt to bring up with planning commission?
Because isn't that, I've seen it in the past where the planning commission has initiated that process, or it could be.
It's in the capital improvement
Capital improvement program.
and it's funded.
Thank you.
Do I drop it, or do I strike it off the list?
I don't think it would hurt to send it to the planning commission, just as a request.
But,
Send it to the liaison.
yep, there you go.
Can you make note of that? So we have to send it? The guy over there.
The guy on the other side.
Yeah, it's all on me. It's on me. It's what it is. So, I mean, at this point, it's just a matter of us just getting trash cans ordered. So that's really where it comes down to. I hadn't noticed, I mean, I always thought they were on the newer, or the portions where streetscape had been done. Obviously, none had been added into the new edition and everything, as well as the benches. Now, in the CIP, we did appropriate some funds to address that issue. So we'll get looking where we need to add some sporadically through the town. It was going to be looked at anyway with regard to the newer section. So.
Just to address the current phase that was constructed, why there aren't any on there, is because all but 4 of the properties had to go through the eminent domain process. And when you install the benches or the trash cans, they would go behind the sidewalk, which would require additional take. And if you're going through eminent domain as it is, not in the middle, but behind it, like a bench would have to go behind it, not in that grassed area, but behind it. And we might be able to do some of the trash cans in the middle, but there was this issue, like I said, with eminent domain. And we didn't want to push, and the previous phases, what it was is worked out as part of the right-of-way negotiation, where it was, you give us this property, we'll give you this nice bench. And when people weren't even negotiating, there wasn't much to be able to do with that.
Perhaps we can talk to the affected property owners and ask them now if we can get permission.
You know, and it might be that now this is done, it looks good.
Right.
That they might be more willing, and at the initial standpoint, they were not.
Right.
But like, it just was so contentious there that it wasn't, you know, how can you say, give me even more, when they were fighting what they were giving already?
Right. Okay. Any other questions for Holly?
Are we going to keep this mailbox that's out here in our parking lot? That's going to stay, right? There's this big hole that's there, and whenever it rains, you know, yeah. Or I can just go and get bags of gravel, heavy gravel, and just send the bill to you.
Yeah.
Should I drop it or cross it off my list? It's off the list.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
No further questions for Holly. We'll go to our police report. Chief Smith? Yeah. We'll get you a mic there, sir. Yeah.
What is required after 10 minutes?
Yeah. There's a
I don't have anything specifically to bring up. I did want to mention something or call out the attention to something there that's mentioned in the staff participation related to a VEASAN audit. That's the Virginia Criminal Information Network. The department has a terminal for access to the state databases related to DMV and criminal history records. And it should be mentioned, and this really is a credit to Donna, we had this audit, which is routine on a yearly basis, and we passed with no flaws. The state police are the oversight agency for that, and they're very strict, necessarily so. And in this day and age where we hear so much about privacy and breaches of those kinds of things, I think it's notable that we didn't have any problems with our internal paper trail and such related to that. So.
Excellent.
I don't have anything else. Be happy to answer your questions.
Yep. Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Did you want to brief the council on the FOIA request we had about the body cams?
Certainly. We received, and I suspect this was one that went out scattershot to a lot of agencies in the state, from the state chapter of the ACLU, a request for our policies related to body cameras. And as I've mentioned before, we haven't really done much other than the carryover of what was in place before, including the policy, which was authored by the previous police chief. It's not thorough, but it's adequate, I guess is the best word for it. And we responded to that. I've heard nothing further back from them. I think they're probably just fishing for policies, you know, throughout the state practices.
Okay. Councilman Morse.
It does, but I think it should be comprehensively done when we attack this problem, and I don't think we're ready for that yet. As I mentioned before, I'm trying to follow the rapidly evolving trends in that topic right now. So I think to put something else out other than maybe just some clarification on data retention that we do capture, which is hit or miss, that we should leave that lie until we actually tackle the full problem. And as I mentioned, I think the route to go is the turnkey systems that are out there where we pay a price per officer and they provide the camera, the maintenance issues associated with it, and then the cloud storage in a secure manner.
Wow.
So as it is right now, how well are our officers protected?
Well, we're better off than agencies that have no system in place, but what we have in place is somewhat hit or miss.
Councilman Passanelli?
Yeah, changed the subject, but I think it's an important subject that we need to pursue on. But relative to the report itself, can we get the crime report as part of this packet every month, Brian, Chief? Because I've noticed, I've gone online and noticed those reports. They're good. I'm not sure if we can do that or not, but it is a public document that is on our website that we produce every month.
Just to educate everybody, that's a summary of the major events. It's not every event or every incident. It's just the major incidents, arrests throughout the month's period that's out on the website as part of the public release.
Have you seen that, Martin? Yeah. Well, I kind of stumbled on it myself, and I noticed, the reason why I'm asking is because I noticed there was a dog bite in my neighborhood, and I didn't hear anything about it, so it was kind of interesting. And, you know, with the B&E that happened last month, I didn't notice that, so.
Which should have been on there.
Right, exactly.
We can add that. I mean, it's probably another page. Yeah, she corrected it today.
Okay, great. But I think it's a nice piece of information to have, and then it's a complete package, or maybe you'll stick around, I don't know, but maybe the next chief. You're having so much fun. Maybe the next chief will maybe look at that also and figure out how he wants to present the material. I don't know, but it's good information to have.
Yep. Okay.
There is a little bit of a timing issue with that, sir. It's a lag? It's a lag. So if I do include it, it would have to be the prior month.
That's fine.
You want to do that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. Yeah. It's good to have it, you know, we all see it.
And Jen has worked, since she's taken over that, to help us to kind of spice up the formatting of it so it looks a little more appealing.
Okay.
It's a good report.
Councilman Morse?
Just one more, sir. The visuals that we have, the wordings, what you call those, the police signs, the large ones, that advertise the event for this past Saturday that was canceled. Saturday morning when we were here, I asked Donna about changing the wording on it to say it was canceled, and she said she was the only one who could change it. She's the only one who could change the wording. Do you think we need a backup person? Maybe
I think we-
the officers or the chief?
We did that, yeah. Jennifer was able to do it the time before when we were,
So you can change it too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, because she told me she was the only one who can change it.
yep. Okay.
Answer.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Chief, appreciate it.
I do have one.
Go ahead.
Not too fast.
It's not a question, I just, Officer O'Neill, I thought this was a good commendation of the work he did. I think it should be mentioned here, and thank him for his professionalism. I know we got it, but just on record. I think so many times police officers in this day and age, we hear about all the accusations. We don't hear near enough about what they do daily for us. So just go on record, Officer O'Neill, it was great work, and having worked in the school systems and having had students who committed suicide, this is a tragic event.
Thank you for making that notation.
Okay.
I have a piece of involvement in the ordinance, but when it comes up, I'll be available for questions on that.
Okay. Our next item is our building officials report. If we don't see anything with that, we can let Brian know. We'll move on to our Main Street coordinator, Denise.
I was hoping to be bringing you great news about how successful our event was on Saturday. Unfortunately, I had to make the decision at 5:30 Saturday morning to cancel the event due to the pending thunderstorms and flash flooding for that day. So between Saturday and today, I've still been on the phone talking with our vendors, letting them know that they'll be rolled over to Haymarket Day, that they can participate in that with no additional cost. Also, the volunteers have decided to come back as well to help for Haymarket Day. So some good did come out of it. We have lovely T-shirts still. Thank you, Councilman Pasanello, for donning that shirt tonight. I don't know if you have any other questions about the report, I can answer those as well.
I do actually. I haven't talked to Denise in a while. Is Novant going to come back for Haymarket Day to do the screenings and stuff, or is that?
They are willing. Our events committee is meeting on July 13th, and that's a possibility. We're still working out the kinks for the layout for Haymarket Day, but they are willing to come back.
Great, super.
I just want to say a good call on Saturday morning. It was better to cancel than to have an event out there in the rain when nobody shows up, so you did good.
I think the word severe was the key word, severe weather, because we were willing to go rain or shine, but there was a safety aspect that obviously.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just a brief comment. Next time, can we get the canceled to cover up the rain or shine part? Because I noticed that the advertisement said rain or shine, and then there was a big banner that said canceled due to weather. If we could maybe next time cover up the rain or shine part with the canceled banner, that would be nice.
Absolutely.
That's just a design. Yeah, sure.
What have we learned from an event like this where we had to make the call to cancel? Do we go with a rain date? What have we learned from?
Well, that's something that we're definitely going to discuss in the events committee on whether or not to move forward with the rain date. With Haymarket Day right around the corner, and next week being 4th of July, well, this coming weekend being 4th of July weekend, it was just been pushed off, and so depending on what the date of the event is, I think we'll discuss whether or not having a rain date for that particular event. Haymarket Day will be rain or shine, though.
Well, as long as there's not
thunderstorms
and
again.
lightning and.
For Haymarket Day, usually there is no rain date for that event.
Jen, have we ever moved it from the Saturday to the next day, Sunday? Any events?
I think it's been canceled once, right?
Haymarket Day's never been canceled.
Has never?
No, we went off with Isabel. No, we've never had a rain date. There's a lot of complications with a rain date.
When is June on record?
That's because of the beer garden.
No comments.
The remobilization of all the different vendors, and it's really hard to do a rain date.
Okay. Great. Okay, any other questions? All right, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our treasurer's report, Ms. Wilson.
Good evening.
How's our money doing? That's what we want to know.
One more day.
Yeah.
One more day.
That's it. Coming down to the wire.
First, if you notice, I've given everybody this sheet. We inadvertently left out our appropriations for the next year's budget, so that needs to be done. Huh? That's so we can have a budget. So this will be added to your agenda item Monday.
It does not impact you for the first 6 days of the month of the fiscal year?
We just can't spend any money. We don't get paid. No.
What do we do?
Yeah, we won't be affected.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you won't be here, so it's really only Wednesday, Thursday, Monday.
Right.
Don't write any checks.
Got it.
So I did mention in my report, tomorrow's the last day of the fiscal year. I did have Mary, the CPA lady, come out, and she said everything looks great. We're all set. She is going to come back probably August, first part of September, right before the auditors come out, so she can get us ready for that. But usually in July, you got to wait. There's some additional invoices come in with a June date on them. We have to input all those into the budget. And just some other things on my report. Anybody have any questions on anything?
Vice Mayor Aiken.
One thing Joe and I were talking about is we'd like to move the next finance meeting from the 15th to the 22nd of July.
Okay.
So if we can just make sure that gets reported so that everyone knows that.
22nd? July.
Wednesday's the 22nd.
It's a Wednesday,
is
yeah.
it? Yes.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Just wanted to talk about a couple things in the report, Sherry. Bullet number 2, we've got some unpaid real estate taxes, and we've sent out numerous notifications and blah, blah, blah. Have there been any responses back by any of these folks?
It straggles in each month, 1 or 2. Actually, probably 95% of that amount is 2 main addresses on Washington Street. They're very large bills.
Okay.
The rest of them are just small residential.
Right. Yeah, I was just kind of asking that question because, we talked about some other issues in the past, like at the last meeting, and I was just wondering what the next steps on something like that would be, so we don't get too far out there.
We have a pretty good success rate, like 98, 99% collections, always on real estate tax. I just keep after them every month. You start adding those finance charges on every month.
Right.
That tends to get them their attention.
Jay, just to follow up on that, do we have written procedures in place? Like, so these businesses know if they're delinquent, this trips? I mean, is there something that every business in town has, whether they read it or not, that set procedures?
Well,
Foreclosure.
That we follow, yes, but something that we send to the,
Well, isn't it on their bill what the charges are after a
Yes.
certain period of time?
Yeah.
Just like you would with any other bill? Oh, going to the,
But do they know on the last communication with them, do they know what the next step is?
let's see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? I think that's the direction that Matt is going, is do they know what the next step is? Do they know that after this final notice, they're going to be getting something from the attorney? Do they know that after 60 days, it's, there's a certain percentage that's added? Do they know that?
No, you're right, that's something we need to work on.
I mean, the question is, do we need to work on that? Because I don't think many other jurisdictions do that. Businesses don't do that. Go to that extent of warning people to the nth degree. You can't handhold people all the way down. At some point, they've got to take responsibility themselves. So I'm not sure how much effort we want to put into something like this, where 98% of people are doing it just fine, and how much money are we spending on 2% of the people to make sure they know what's going to happen next? So that's just my concern, is that maybe there's another step we take, but I don't want to go too far here.
That's a good point.
Typically speaking, from our policy standpoint, one of the luxuries we have being a small town, we typically will correspond with individuals through letters. I mean, we notify them, this is what's going on. In many of the cases, and I think Sherry would attest to this, these are just repeat offenders. That's where I was going with it and stuff. Repeat offenders, and that's why it's gone up to the amount that it has. There's other methods, but at some point it gets to the point when you're getting 98% collection.
Yeah, good point.
when it comes to real estate.
And most of the communication between us and these companies is all written. It's never usually phone calls.
No, it's always an invoice or a letter.
Okay.
Warren, did you have anything to add to that?
No.
Yeah, Mr.
Mayor, I would add that a lot of that is going to depend on the discretion of the treasurer, because you're looking at the amount and trying to figure out how much effort to put into it. And we could certainly check with the Treasurers Association to see if there are any other jurisdictions that have policies on that, but I expect what they'll say is that these are the methods that the treasurer has the discretion, based on the circumstances, the workload, the amount, to pursue any of them.
Okay.
I have more questions. Sure. Okay. As far as the audit goes with the Mary Earhart and all, are we going to get to see that in advance before it becomes final? Or do we just get that at the end of the summer?
October.
Right.
Mary's not our auditor.
Oh, okay.
No, she's not the auditor. She's just a CPA.
Oh, that's right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
she comes and helps us out to get us preface for the audit.
And when will the audit begin?
They'll probably begin around September or some point, mid-September.
Take about a month, 2 months, roughly.
The
field work is just a couple days.
Yeah, a couple of days is the field work, and then they'll come back for like a week.
The council gets a draft.
Right.
Got it. That's right. I remember, I think last year. Yeah, okay. I just wondered if I'm pushing the boundaries here, too, about your court appearance. Was it last week? Can we talk about anything?
Yeah, Mr. Councilman Palsanello, we did prepare a statement that we sent to you all, and then we also prepared a statement for Mr. Henshaw to hand out to the press if anybody inquired. I think there was one inquiry, we want to discuss that with you all in closed session this evening. As it stands currently, the court has entered its order, has drafted the bond for Blue Sky to bond the payment to the town, and they have not yet obtained a surety to sign off on the bond. So that's the current status.
Good, thank you. I just want to say also, Sherry, great job on that last bullet. You did a lot of work, and looking forward to making a little bit more money for the town. So,
Thank you.
So great job. And I only have one more comment. I just wanted to ask, under the profit and loss budget versus actual, and I apologize, I wasn't at the meeting Wednesday, does that still include receivable from Blue Sky? The meals tax current?
It does, yes.
It does. So in essence, that's really not that high.
In essence, the actual number is probably around 470.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Sherry? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Our town manager's report. Mr. Henshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few action items, but I'll discuss those when we go through it. But really, I have nothing to add to my report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Who wants to start? Yeah, we'll go to the right here.
I noticed you got 52 applications for the chief search committee. How many is it that you anticipate narrowing it down to? And
One. Sorry, you set yourself up.
thank you, Mr. Morris. In the first round.
There you go. I think the committee is hoping to narrow that down to do a first round interview of anywhere from probably 7 to 10. That's the hope and goal. They all are reviewing the applications. If we're at 11, we're not going to argue over it. We'll figure out how to do it. But basically, our next step in the process is we're actually meeting this Wednesday at 4:30. The selection committee, including our citizen representatives, have been reviewing the applications. We'll be meeting, narrowing down our list of candidates to bring in for that first round of interviews. The selection committee would probably do that first round of interviews. We'd hopefully get it down to hopefully a manageable, probably 2, 3, could be 4, just depends. And then that would be a second round interview with the council as a whole.
Thank you.
To add to that, Mr. Henshaw did not note here, but they actually went through the initial applications and just, made sure that all of the requirements were met, and that narrowed it down significantly before it even got to the selection committee. We still got the entire packet of all of them, but the ones that actually met all of the requirements off the bat was a much smaller number.
How many was that?
It narrowed it down to 17, I believe.
Quick question, Mr. Henshaw. How many of these applicants would you say are local? Let's say Virginia.
In Virginia, most of the 17 were local. One of the big qualifying issues, we had, of the 52 that submitted, they were all highly qualified. But one of the things that we are looking at is various different levels of criteria with regard to how high education. These were in the job description. Being able to be Virginia certified DCJS. And so those were some of the outline. As Councilman Woods acknowledged, we want to make sure that all the members of the committee did get to see and review. We just did a cursory review just to try to knock that number down. Like I said, everyone will be notified one way or the other, but we just were trying to make it a little bit more manageable. But out of the 17 that were, most of those were all Virginia. I think there was only one that was outside of Virginia.
Okay. Further questions from Mr. Henshaw?
Yes.
Yes.
I noticed that the VML conference is October 4th to the 6th.
Correct.
You got that in there. So we have our regularly scheduled council meeting on the 5th. So if folks are going to go, we'd have to think about how do we coordinate that.
Yeah, because we would really like to have as many people to go with that, and as well as staff, too. This type of event, I think, having clerks, and actually they have attorneys as well down there. I can't speak highly enough for the participation and what you gain out of going to this type of an event.
It's one of those things, if you haven't gotten a chance to go, it's a good opportunity to you to go. One of the reasons why I put it in here this early is I didn't think about that reason, but that is another good reason why we want to get this on your calendars as soon as we can. So.
Yeah. I'd recommend it if you can go. I got a lot of value out of it last time.
I get something out of every time that I go down there. Yep. Okay. Further questions or comments from Mr. Henshaw? Our space next door. This is probably the first time we've publicly talked about we have an empty spot, and what's our plans for opening that up?
Well, I think really, I think we're going to discuss that somewhat. I need kind of some direction from council with regard to another issue that we're going to discuss in the closed session with regard to potential lease agreement. Once I have that, I actually should be able to advise you from there as what our next steps are.
Okay. All right.
But for the most part, I'm hoping to get a crew in there to start working on that section. It's just a question of how fast and is that the proper step, and so
Okay.
I kind of need some direction from you all before
Understood.
we can go there.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. Thanks, Brian. This brings us up to our next item. I think we're going to need to go into executive session. So, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Apology. Oh, yes. Iceplex. Sorry.
The Iceplex is a, y'all look ready, and then everybody. The Iceplex project is, they want to add a second rink that is behind the first rink. There were buffer waivers, and that went along with the preliminary plan that they adhered to. They did say that this this construction will actually take course over 3 phases. And after the initial first phase, when they do the second building, the main building, they will go ahead and add additional landscaping and replace the dead landscaping that's out there. I do want to say that if any of you would like to see the full set of plans, please email me. They're sitting right next to my desk. but it would be helpful if you're interested, if you want me to go over them with you. The Planning Commission did pass a motion to recommend approval as well.
And the ARB passed it as well.
Okay.
Is this something that
We can put on
The consent agenda, or do we have?
Yes.
Okay.
great. If there's no objection for that, then we'll definitely add that.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our change order, Town Master Center Plan. Mr. Henshaw?
Yes. Real briefly, this change order adds onto our current contract with RDA to provide site design and engineering design. And basically what it does is it adds our architectural services with their subcontractor, John Hetzel, who's a licensed architect, along with some additional design to allow for appropriate fire suppression. Envision, if we're going to use this all as one cumulative building, we really need to have fire suppression throughout the whole entire facility. There would be some upgrades, but that wasn't taken into account when the original site design came in proposal. Also, we would also do a lighting plan for the facility as well, and there has to be a photometric. So these were some very small engineering add-ons, and the bulk of the change order is adding on the architectural design, which would include now the facade improvements as well as the interior design.
Okay.
You mentioned fire suppression, but that wasn't included in this change order, I believe. I thought that they...
I believe it's in like water lines or water lines.
I thought that they specifically mentioned, though, somewhere that it would have to be an outside contract.
Page 67, Part 2, interior base building renovations. The next to last bullet point is the central fire suppression system throughout.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, I'm sorry. Can we
Include in the body of the, I guess, your report, the impact of budget, because I didn't see it on there, but then, of course, when I read through it, I saw the amount.
Yeah, I mean, I can add that between now and the regular commission, council meeting. What essentially the impact is you have in your adopted budget for next fiscal year, construction and design. So this essentially falls through in design. The design's coming a little bit higher than what I think we originally anticipated. But even when the cost came in for the site plan and then engineering improvements alone, that came in higher. That came in at what we thought the whole entire cumulative design was going to cost. So we knew it was going to raise above that going into this. But yes, the impact of the budget is basically coming out of that line item that was set aside for the town center master plan design and construction.
We haven't had any concept drawings for the one master plan. The very original ones had the 3 different facades.
No, this would be what the architect would be producing for us through this contract.
Right.
And the way the change order works is actually his contract is technically with the engineering firm. The engineering firm is the one providing us with it, but we'll be working with the architect. So he should be producing a front elevation as part of the design process. We may have to switch up his scope a little bit if we decide to move on the interior renovations prior to the exterior renovations.
Where would he get those concepts from? I mean, how does the ARB play a factor of what they envision?
I think the ARB has to be at least signing off at minimal on what is being proposed, since we're a historic district. With regard to it, what he would do is he'd take the master plan, but also take some of the considerations. When the master plan was originally done, it was originally thought of as this being as it is, meaning that you would have separate uses, which made sense from a design and viewpoint to maybe give a separate look to the different buildings, because for the most part, you have a very long and expansive front facade. And so you want to break that up in some way, shape, or form. So since we've changed it, you can still take a lot of the concepts of the master plan overall, but the design of the building and how it gets, the facade gets improved still could be redesigned. It's just you would want to go through all the process. They would go through ARB for their approval, just like any other business doing renovating or building a new building within the town.
Yep. Okay.
I have one more question. If you could go to page 71 and just look at the average hourly rate. I'm going to just ask the question if that's an all-in number. Because if you go to the next page, 72, they don't match up. So I'm just wondering if that has fringe and everything else built in. So for example, project director is $205 an hour, and is that the project director, project manager? I'm thinking he's the principal, actually, and it shows 165 per hour on the next page. I mean,
I believe that that's the difference. The matrix that's on 71 is RDA for engineering, and I believe that the table there is there. It's what basically came out of his proposal to them.
Oh, sub?
Yeah, as a sub.
Okay, all right. Good. Thank you. I'm done.
One of the things, also understanding that we're hoping to create a long-term, they would basically follow us all the way through the entire process. And project management, we haven't negotiated that part of it, but that would be part of the construction cost.
So we have a recommendation for this to move forward and approve the change order. So if there's no objection, we'll put that on the consent as well.
Okay, got to get done.
Great. Item number C, our ARB appointments.
Can we vote now? No.
Yeah, right. This is I guess, a renewal appointment, I guess.
Recommend we put that on the consent agenda as well, if we can.
Yes. Mr. Larson's been serving us for how many years? Quite a few. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. No objection. We're going to put that on there as well. Our next one is item number D, page 83, our town code. I think Chief might have something to say about this. Most important thing, budget impact, I see it says none.
Yes. It's just a discovery amongst several others that there's some things that we have gaps on in the town code, or things that need modernized as time goes on. But this one in particular I was particularly concerned with because as it stands, we have no mechanism. If somebody chooses to have an outdoor fire with trash or rubbish or maybe in a way that isn't unsafe, but certainly could be a nuisance in terms of smoke and late night kinds of things. So this is essentially just to close that loophole.
Okay.
If we could.
Any questions regarding this? Nope.
How would it be enforced? Would it just be, if someone noticed something out of compliance, they would report it, or would this be part of something that the officers would look for when they're on patrol?
Historically, somebody sees flames in this urbanized Northern Virginia setting, they'll dial 911, and the fire department gets dispatched as either an outside fire or something bigger. That's how most of these come to attention. But if it's a small bonfire, something like that, an officer might notice it, or we just get a complaint about it. The actual hard enforcement would, generally speaking, be the fire marshal. Right. But the town police can enforce this.
Okay.
Chief, this, in reading on page 85, so somebody has a fire pit on their back patio or whatever. This would not preclude them from having a fire with a flame a foot tall or something like that, correct?
It's a recreational fire.
Right. And I'm assuming a fire pit would be a recreational fire, correct?
Yes. And yes, those are the general limits that are enumerated there. Constantly attended, et cetera. Not less than 50 feet away from any structure, and then not, if they're not in an approved container, they have to be no less than 15 feet away from any combustibles.
Yes.
Sir, is there a time frame in the year when it's at the county, in the county it goes into effect regardless if this ordinance is there?
No, there is what they call the statewide burn ban that would have very limited application with this in place in the town. In areas where it's not as restrictive as it is in most of Northern Virginia, there's a 4 o'clock cutoff during the prime season when combustibles, the forest and stuff is like tinder.
I know that back in Loudon there's a season where there's a no burn before or after May.
Yeah, that's what's covered by the statewide burn law, as they call it.
So is it something where if we have this, we have to add that burn law into this, or no?
It is referenced in here.
Okay.
But this is more strict in the setting of Northern Virginia, so it has limited applicability in Northern Virginia because of that. Is that captured properly, Councilman? I think so.
Okay.
I like the term ceremonial, that's there for bonfire. You can just, start a fire, and if the fire marshal comes over, you start dancing around it.
It's a technical term, Councilman Morris.
How could we ensure that they don't pull that card to say, hey, it's ceremonial, you can't put it out?
I have this vision of the movie Dragnet with the costumes.
Okay. Any other questions regarding that? All right. We'll move on to our outdoor events.
Sir?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
I was just
Go
going
ahead.
to ask, can we add it to consent?
Yep. Thanks. Outdoor events, page 88. I noticed online there was a red line version. I don't see that on this. Was there a couple different changes as either events committee or whoever looked at this? No? Maybe there's things that were
Yeah,
bulleted
about
out.
a red line version. We've been making some edits, but I can address where we've been, mostly
Okay.
been working
There was a
on.
red line on the online.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The online version did have a red line, a couple red lines on it.
Couple of
Right,
different-
that's what I'm saying. I was not aware of that, but essentially, just to give you quick.
Oh, you can see them. That came out great.
A quick update. Basically, the events committee had been working on this draft, and we basically feel that it covers most of the areas of concern. I do believe that our town attorney may have some additional suggestions with regard to the draft that's in here, especially with watching out for like the town's namesake. That was just what the committee had come up with, but I think our town attorney had said that there might be a better way to actually address that issue than putting it in the ordinance. Before we jump to that, the only other thing I'd say is we basically is, that's all right. I'll get to that in a second. But for the most part, we've been working on this for some time. And, there was, I think it was originally a red line one, but this is the draft that the committee felt best represented what we were trying to accomplish.
All right, let's start with the talking points. I guess I'll start. How does our meals tax apply to this? Because I don't think I saw that in here.
I can field that one, Mayor.
All right.
The meals tax would be chargeable to anybody that is engaging in sale of food that is covered by the meals tax, as long as they're not exempt. There's a long list of exemptions in the statute, but it clearly picks up things like a hot dog stand or anything of that nature. So that's going to be something that Ms. Wilson and I, we've already had that conversation about how we're going to pick up on those folks and notify the event coordinators that they're going to need to be telling their vendors that they are subject to the meals tax, and how to go about collecting and remitting that.
Yeah, because it's I kind of looked through this stuff. I've seen things like if you sell them a can of soda that's not opened, I think that's exempt by some statute or something like that, versus, a dispensed soda isn't. So, I mean, how do we, good.
Would it make sense to entertain an idea of exempting everyone from meals tax on these type of things? Because we have 1 or 2 events a year. I can't imagine we're going to make much money on it. And at the same time, how much are we going to spend trying to collect it and process it and anything else and go after people? That would it make more sense, and would the council entertain a option of just exempting meals tax from vendors that have purchased a booth?
Okay.
Something like that.
Good point.
I would just add to that, I think it would be more than just 2 events, because obviously we have a lot of events that happen during the year that this would apply to. So this wouldn't just be 2 town events.
Okay. For example?
For example, we've had 1, 2, 3 things up at Fauquier Bank, non-town.
Non-town, not, I'm just saying, non-town sponsored stuff, or town-sponsored stuff, I would think, or unless we have to do it all or nothing, and that could be a possibility there, too.
You looking at me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that might be discriminatory.
Can you pick and choose which meals tax that you?
Right. I mean, you can write an ordinance that it has exemptions as long as they're rationally based. But I guess the counter argument to doing that would be, why are you doing it only for town-sponsored events and not for privately sponsored events? And then the next argument is going to be, well, if I have a brick-and-mortar establishment that's selling food and I have to charge my meals tax on the same day that they can go outside to the very next vendor. We've already heard this complaint about competition, and you're actually making it easier for these vendors to come in and compete with your established businesses. I don't know that.
That's a valid point.
There's a number of issues that I think would go into, some of them policy and some of them legal, into analyzing that kind of an exemption.
Well, and can I ask a question? Aren't usually food vendors used to paying these meals taxes where they go? I mean, isn't that just part of their business?
They should be.
Absolutely.
So,
okay.
If you look through the different localities local, they actually have it listed right there on the application. You are responsible for collecting these monies. So.
You're saying it applies to them if they come from outside the town and come into the town limits?
That's what we're saying.
For anything that's happening, for any of these hot dog vendors or food vendors inside the town limits, making the point of sale inside the limits.
And that's where, when they go back home and their business, the local town there tries to tax them on the food, they can say, I already paid it, and be exempt from it, like it's supposed to be done.
They don't, you're right.
Because otherwise, if we didn't charge it, it could be that they'd have to pay it back home.
Yep.
Right. There's a couple of ways that people can be taxed for meals tax. One is if they have a regular place of business within the locality that has the tax, and another is if they have a mobile place of business. Those are also considered restaurants under your ordinance, and so those folks would be taxable here as well.
Okay, I withdraw my question.
Okay.
I think another option, if we wanted to go down that route, would possibly be a meals tax holiday. If we wanted just for Haymarket Day to have a meals tax holiday, we could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. The ordinance really needs another look at it. And so I would recommend a comprehensive look at it, take all of these ideas and figure out how we're going to make this ordinance better. Because a number of issues have come up in terms of explaining it to a judge, and it could be a lot clearer.
But a meals tax holiday for all businesses, including brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Jen, was that, I was just going to ask you, I'm
We
sure.
have done, I was just, that's why I asked for the microphone.
Yeah.
We have done meals tax holiday for Haymarket Day only, and none of the established businesses had to pay either.
For that day.
Correct.
Right. That was by resolution, or do you remember if that was?
Yes, sir, it was.
So was it like one of those outstanding, or is this the way it is? It's still, it's never been,
I'll have to take a look at the
Yeah.
ordinance.
okay,
Good point.
yeah. All right, might have not to do anything. with
Maybe
that
germane
aspect
to
of it.
the discussion, but are we also still limiting the competition on some of the businesses coming to town, the vendors? In other words, we have like a Pizzarama, Giuseppe's. I remember we had talked about limiting the number of people who can sell pizza, or the number of people
Parking within our own events or
in
outside?
our own events, yes.
I think that there's a screening process. I think it's more where they're going to be placed as opposed to what type that they are.
Well, for example,
So
you
you're not
remember
gonna
Mike
put a
came to our
You're not going to
meeting?
put a hamburger stand in front
Right.
of Foster's.
Right.
That's-
Yeah, Mike was talking about
Right.
exclusivity, and I don't know if we,
So, but that's what the events coordinator, she's going to handle all that when she plots and puts everything out. They're not going to be in a competing position. But it's not to say you can't have another one, but they're not going to be right there.
You don't want a situation where you have 20 vendors and we got five vendors who sell hot dogs.
Well, yeah, Right. that's
So,
my question.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, there'll be some
and what we're
screening.
doing is, yeah, that will be, we're looking at, and that's continuing to be looked at through events. Just to kind of address a couple various different issues. One, to stay on, a little bit on the topic, we are branching, a lot of this would be covered under your meals tax. And I think I would refer to our town attorney saying that, yeah, we just need to look at our meals tax and include all these kind of provisions in here. We have been doing a straw poll. I would actually, I use a straw poll loosely, but I did talk to a couple of the directors of finance when I was at the VML VACO VIP board meeting, which I had a room full of finance directors, and like probably out of 10, I got 5 out of 5. That we don't tax it, we do tax it. It's not exactly to that point, but what I'm getting at is like there's some jurisdictions who are, there's some jurisdictions who aren't. We essentially just need to make the policy decision from that standpoint. I don't know if Sherry's heard from other jurisdictions. We've sent out a request to the Treasurers Association as well.
And my question to that would be, are the ones that are not taxing it, is it because they have an ordinance or a resolution, or they're just, because I think it's pretty clear, that if it's a tax, it's something that needs to be collected.
Well, that's my follow-up question, and I got kind of stymied right there. So, so what it comes down to is I think different jurisdictions have looked at it. I think they've taken care of it through either, doing a resolution, or they've done it through various different means. But it seems to be it's a hot topic that a lot of councils seem to face. So it's really just more to me it's a policy decision. If we're supposed to be collecting it, we got to figure out a way to collect it. We just never addressed that before. So now we're at a point where we need to start addressing it, and what's the best way to do that. And so that's what we're really kind of gathering at this time with regard to that particular subject. What is our best process to go through and collect it?
Or is it something that the council feels that they would want to, have, maybe if the resolution is already standing in it, or not? Okay. All right. Oh, I see. Okay.
Well, I mean, the complication that comes up then is for every event that comes into the town that's not town-sponsored, you have to know when those happen so you can proclaim a tax-free day. I mean,
Right. Well, that would be-
sometimes.
That's
well,
where you would have something. in
Right.
the
I mean, we need to
event
take that
ordinance.
into consideration because sometimes we're not knowing, I mean, there's the whole point about paying and whether they can, on time and proceed with it. And, I mean, it's making a murky mess. So I agree, we have to make some kind of decision. But I think it's going to be harder for those things that are not town-sponsored to be able to make that happen.
And it looks like some of the other jurisdictions have already been down this road. So you look at, I think it's Arlington County, it's so clear on all the applications and everything.
And
There's-
what is their,
They collect it.
they collect
Yeah,
the meals
it
tax?
does.
Yeah.
If I may, the majority
Sure.
that I talk to do collect the meals tax, but they don't make them pay a booth fee.
Oh.
They don't make them, like, I think our booth fee for food is what? $300. They don't make them pay the $300 fee, but they have to pay their taxes on the meal.
And that's kind of what we found with the ones who were not collecting those taxes. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly what they're using to get out of collecting those taxes, but I'm going to assume that they're following the rules. But what I was going to say is they're either paying that booth fee or they're collecting the taxes. That was the one thing I kept on hearing consistently.
Is that whether it's town-sponsored or not?
These were town-sponsored events.
So do they deal with non-town-sponsored events? What did they do with that?
Well, they, in Franklin, I don't, yeah, they, to be honest with you, I cannot remember what was the answer, but I have a contact
I think
information.
that's, I mean, we obviously have control of our own town events, and we can, make those things happen and put whatever ordinance we want about that, but I think you've got to consider if we're going to do it for ourselves, then are we doing it for them, what's the policy for the non-town events?
To me, it seems like it should be consistent.
Right.
It should be either all or nothing.
That's how I feel.
And if it is nothing, then we need to have a resolution to state it.
To make it consistent, and I'm now leaning towards just charging it for everybody and not doing a tax holiday, because if some of these people may have to go back and then pay taxes to their own jurisdiction if they don't pay them here. So why are we giving money away and letting somebody else have it? So,
I mean, if you keep the tax and just make it consistent, they're paying a booth fee, it seems like they come back every year and it's packed. So maybe we're creating a problem that doesn't exist, and just stay like we are. I mean, has anybody complained that?
I don't think we've collected it, have we?
No, we've never
collected it, see. That's the problem.
The only ones that would pay it are the established businesses in town, not vendors.
So every time there's been an event in town, we've collected it from all the restaurants, but not
Which
the
I can see
competing
why
vendors.
I can see why, no doubt.
If we do start collecting it, I think that we might want to consider reducing the booth fee for food vendors.
I guess we could do the math on that as well. You can do an anticipated sale, because, for example, you have Foster's, and you have Foster's that has his outside event as well. So inside, he's collecting, and then the outside, he's selling a hamburger that's not collecting.
So he shuts down the inside.
Theoretically, he should be paying it anyway, because he's an extension of the brick and mortar in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Right.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to move on this on Monday, do we?
Well, I just think that if
We
this
need to get it done
ordinance,
sooner
this
rather than later, though, because we're
event
coming up on big
ordinance
events.
should capture something that we have a consensus of.
Well, I think this ordinance isn't dealing with the meals tax anyway. This is just dealing with
This ordinance is totally separate from meals tax. They're two different things.
But isn't there some things that, Martin, you want to update on this thing, or?
Right. Let me just address one of those. On page 94 of your packet, section 1511, subsection C, is an attempt to prevent confusion in the public by having similarly named events. I think the way that you want to do that is instead through registering as a service mark your event names and having people, notifying people if they are using something that is similar, that they are infringing on your service mark. So I would ask you to just go ahead and strike 15-11. I don't think that's the appropriate method for solving that particular problem. Not all of 1511, I'm sorry, just C, 1511C. Sorry about that, Mr. Cottle.
Thank you. That's why I just struck it.
How long would it take to do that, do you think?
To revise that?
No, the mark.
Haymarket Day is registered? Yes. Okay, so they take a few weeks. It depends on whether you're doing a state registration or a federal registration. State registration is very simple and quick, but we can do both or whatever you like.
I have a few comments. Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Yep. That's made for me, can I? Page 90. 15-1 definitions. Outdoor events. Fourth line from the bottom of that paragraph. It says alcoholic beverages will be sold or consumed shall be exempt from obtaining a permit if they are attended by fewer than 25 patrons. That number seems high for an event like this. Alcohol is...
Isn't that for like a home party or something, or?
So who's selling alcohol at their home party?
Well,
It's for sale. This is because the home party is in the next,
Yeah.
the residential part is in the next paragraph down.
but it says sold or consumed.
Yes, it does. Those numbers are a line drawing mechanism, line drawing exercise. You all can draw the line somewhere else. 50 is a number that you see, for example, in the building code. That's when you have that many people under a roof. That is an assembly that kicks it up into a higher level of safety for purposes of the building code. So that's one reason that I like that number. But then we're looking at a lower number for alcohol events, and so it came to 25. You could make that 20. I wouldn't go below 15 because we're talking about gatherings on private property that, it's a right to use your property however you see fit.
Right.
We're interfering with that right. We want to be very careful that when we are interfering with people's right to use their property, we're doing so because there is a compelling state interest in public safety.
What's your thought on that?
Well, I've been to several graduation parties recently that could have exceeded that 25 number, so I'm not sure reducing it makes sense. I'm not saying we should increase it either, but 25 is not a lot.
No.
For
Is there-
25 people in somebody's backyard is not.
Well, again, you would be exempt for the residential property because
Bottom one is residential.
Oh,
if you look at
okay.
15-2, these regulations apply to privately owned, non-residential property only. So
Oh, okay.
we're
Never
not even
mind.
worried about the residential properties. That's your HOA that's going to affect that.
You're talking about renting out the HOA clubhouse or something.
Correct.
Or a retirement party or something to that.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
To say that any event where alcohol is sold would be, would not be exempt?
Well, if you're going to be selling alcohol, you're going to be subject to the ABC regulations. You're going to have to get a permit from the ABC. So there's a whole nother level of regulation that kicks in at the state level for that. So, you could certainly, just leave that alone, and you could take that exemption out, that difference out entirely, because the state's going to be affecting the ABC license, and just leave it at 50 for everything, and figure the ABC will take care of the sale. If you're not concerned about the consumption without sale, that's what I'm saying. If you're concerned about the consumption without sale, then you might want to have the lower level of threshold for a permit requirement so that you can, at least, the purpose of some of these things is just so the police know about it, so that they don't get caught flat-footed and there's nobody on shift that night when there's a big party that's scheduled. That's part of what the chief goes and looks for is, or what do we have coming up?
So we could leave it as is.
Yeah,
That would
I
give
don't
him
see a
his
harm in
warning.
leaving it as is.
Sure. If it turns out to be, difficult to enforce or have unintended consequences, we can always revisit it.
Yeah.
Can I continue, sir?
Yeah, continue, please.
Page 91, 15-4, subsection B. It states within 24 hours after permit expiration. Does this include signage? Like large signs that are on, and does it include private property, like the bank property? Are we able to enforce this?
Well, it does say signs in there. Structure, signs, trash.
And 24 hours seems to me too far. I mean, you've got, New York City, January 1st, the ball drops, and an hour later, they're cleaning up the streets.
Yeah, but most of the times it's Sunday.
Yeah, if it's
I
a
think
Sunday event or something, and the trash guys come around Monday or something like that.
And they're paying triple overtime in New York City.
Well, also,
So 24 may be too short?
Well, let me say something about that. Since we wrote this, the U.S. Supreme Court decided an opinion in Reed versus Town of Gilbert, which found that a requirement to remove signs within 24 hours after an event was unconstitutional. So that was specific to that particular situation, and this is a different situation. But, I would think in 24 hours, you don't want to shorten that up anymore.
The signs I wouldn't think, but I would think the trash.
Yeah.
I think it's implied, you got to get it cleaned within the 24-hour period. I think the other thing that, with this regard, is you got some, if we're requiring them to have like a variable message board because of the traffic congestion, that might be out of their hands. I mean, they should be able to get the company that they're renting the VBMs in by 24 hours to get there to remove them, but to have any less, it might be a challenge.
A lot of those companies won't come till Monday, and if you have a Saturday event.
Right.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
going to be more than 24 hours.
My hang-up is not the fact that maybe contained versus removed, that the trash should be contained, prior to the end of the event, but removal, you're right, the trash companies and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, bagged up
Yeah.
and sealed or something like that.
Right, and
makes
that's where we
sense.
had an issue before. We had a Sunday morning where we had
Not
trash
open
flowing down-
trash, they're blowing around.
blowing down the streets.
Well, and then actually, the subsection is titled Storage, Removal, and Disposal, but it only discusses the removal. It doesn't discuss storage and disposal. We could always beef that up a little bit and explain what kind of storage is required, as well as when the disposal is required and what removal means.
Exactly. I mean, I know for our events, we always put everything one big piles, and they wait for the trash guy the next day, but just to make sure.
Really, you're talking about containing it.
Containing it.
Within 24 hours, and then disposing of it on the next business day. Yes.
Or even containing it, you'd probably want it even sooner if possible.
Yeah.
Like within 6 hours of the end of the event or something, because you're not going to want it to go overnight.
Right, or storage, right.
Got the chief looking like he's ready to grab something.
Well, I think that's the direction that Mr. Aiken was going, was to have some language that said containment is almost immediate
Right.
at the conclusion of the event, but the removal then has the longer window.
So it's not the time doesn't start at the expiration of the permit, but at the expiration of the event.
I think the conclusion of the event is what
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should strike the permit expiration.
Right, we'll come back with some comprehensive language changes for that.
Okay. In continuing, sir, can I?
Yes, so please.
The section D, just below amusement rides, and it says here applicant shall have all amusement rides inspected by a credentialed third-party inspector. And then it says the inspection report must be reviewed by the town building official. Does this give us enough time? Because in cases where they set up these amusement rides, it's usually like the day of the event or even before the event. So when you think of a Saturday event, and then these rides are put in place on the Friday, does that give our town building official enough time to inspect it?
Our building official wouldn't be inspecting it.
Who would be inspecting
The
it?
third-party inspectors, what he's doing is he's reviewing their credentials and their certification that they have inspected it and have signed off on it. They're the ones who are taking liability for their. All we're doing is inserting the fact that the town has the point of being the building official. It's got to be turned in to somebody that this has been acknowledged. But that actually takes a specific type of inspection qualifications, and it's something our building official doesn't have. So that's the reason why it's a third-party inspector. I'm not sure.
No, it's a review. The thing that I'm asking about is the reviewed.
Yeah. Essentially, though, that's what our building official would be doing, is he's reviewing their inspection report.
And that's what I'm asking. Would he, on a Friday evening, have enough time to review it?
I would think so, Mr. Councilman Morris, because I think it's just going to be what Mr. Henshaw said. It's just, these are my credentials, I have this certification, here's my license number from the state and USBC, and this is passed. That's all the report's going to say.
So this is something where he would be put on notice to say, hey, expect an inspection report.
Mm-hmm. He would meet them. That's part of his job. He would meet them here after the inspection took place, and he would either just look at it and verify that they inspected it, or they could walk around. But once again, he's not a
doing it.
inspector.
Right. I understand that aspect. I'm just I just wanted to know if he would be able to have enough time to review it.
That's a
before
it's a
the-
fairly, I mean, if you get to a building inspections department that has that certification, you take third party out, they have to meet when the carnival's going out.
Okay.
So like whenever, like, the best example is like the park out of Manassas, when they have the carnival there, those rides have to be inspected before. So either they have an inspector on site or they get a third-party inspector to be there. And so they got to be inspected,
And we're going to know they're coming in advance, so we'll know that.
which is why the permit.
Joe, you got to be there that night and put on a schedule.
And the fees associated with this?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Is it built into the application fee?
I would say it would be covered under the application fee as it's being proposed. We can that's something we have to look at. We just haven't had too many opportunities where this has been an issue. So we really just aren't going to know. I mean, I think the biggest thing that both our attorney and myself have been working on as we've been constructing this and working with the events committee is making sure you have legitimate costs associated with the permit that you're going to charge. The point is we're really trying to make an effort to determine what is that appropriate charge.
Okay.
And so we won't really know until the process
We'll start adding
comes.
this up. We can.
Well, not, so I think I'm going where David's going on this, because the initial application fee is $300.
Well, it was 1,000, so.
Well, now it's 3, right? But for the purposes of discussion, right now it's proposed it's 300, right? But then it says that the same venue and possessing a similar footprint by the same applicant will be reduced to $100. Okay, I get the logic, but is that going to be enough to cover Joe Barbeau coming from Orange, to do an inspection on top of all the other staff requirements in support of the project? It's
a fair question. I think the thing is we don't know because we've only had one so far, and we'd have to find out what those charges were. But if they're not having, would be just as much of an issue as if they're not having carnival events every single time. You can't build in a fee for Joe every time. So that'd be like maybe there's an additional charge because they're doing carnival events. I'm not sure.
The only thing that we would be charging for building official on would be the carnival rides and tents over 900 square feet, and any reviewing stands that might be built, any kind of temporary structures. Those would need to be inspected. And that there would be a separate inspection fee for that, just like any other kind of thing. So the $300 only covers the town's review of the application and to make sure that it's compliant with our ordinance.
Well, we should be able to do that on some simple math, salaries and estimated
Well-
times, and is that how we came up with
Well,
this number?
Well, if you're listening, what our town attorney is basically saying is like the inspection fee would be separate anyway.
Right. Okay,
So
but just
so
the
that
town review.
would take- yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, Manassas has a $100 review fee, and they waived it for everybody, so they don't actually charge anybody.
Oh, okay, well, they got more money
Yeah.
than we do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you from my perspective, my review of these things, it's under 5 minutes for almost all of my reviews of events like this. I look at it and I say, does it comply with the ordinance? Yes, then go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. Because he's not reviewing he's reviewing just the report.
Yeah, he's just reviewing the report. I'm just reviewing what the application says.
Yeah.
If it's the police officers on the ground or the staff on the ground that's going to see that there's some, safety problem.
Did he just go on the record and say he's billing us 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes each
Exactly.
one.
So,
For most,
Yeah.
most.
Of course.
Most.
yeah, but
The hourly rate is the difference, right? Sorry,
So we
sorry.
need to raise the $300 fee.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I continue?
Yeah,
sir?
continue, please.
In security plan, I'm sorry, was there something
no,
else?
go ahead. Go ahead. No. Go right ahead. I'll come
Fifteen
back to it.
5, emergency services, security plan. The applicant shall submit a security plan. Unless I'm missing it, I didn't see a time frame.
That's prior to the permit being approved.
Okay, well, let's go back to what's the time frame for the permit.
Where did we end up with that?
I don't think there was.
I'm not sure if it went first.
I did, just don't remember.
On 15-9B on page 93 of your packet, applications will be filed not less than 21 days and shall show the exact location, detailed description, plat or drawing, security plan if required by section 15-5. So that would be 21 days in advance.
With 21 days and section 15-2D, as in Delta, if the chief of police or designee will review all security plans, the chief of police will review all security plans within 10 days. But then section E, echo, if the chief rejects the proposed safety plan, and just tying all of those together, 21, 10 days, does that give the applicant enough time to come back with a proper proposal that the chief of police would agree to?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I can speak to my experience with similar ordinance in Manassas that we've been able to make it work, which actually has shorter time frames than that.
I think 21 days is too short.